Hey there peeps, welcome to the Fit for 90 podcast. I'm your host, Cayman Bandel, footballer and strength and conditioning coach. Today is all around something a little bit different, to be honest with you. Usually I'm breaking down like a topic of performance or nutrition, but today I want to take you back and give you an insight into some of the mistakes that I've made. And this is really me telling my younger self as a footballer 10 things that I should probably change or probably be aware of as I progress with my football. Now, I've made a lot of mistakes, and I mean, if you're a footballer watching this or listening to this right now, you're probably making some of these mistakes that I'm going to speak about. And I really don't want a lot of, especially younger lads, I don't want you guys making the same mistakes that I did. And even the guys that are a little bit older, I'm sure there's a lot of things and a lot of habits that you've fallen into which can be broken, but it's the first step to changing that is actually being aware of those habits and aware of what needs to change. So I'm going to get straight into it now. I think the first one for me was I used to think running long distances, like running a lot. I used to do a shitload of 5Ks, 10Ks. Like I used to do a lot of it, and I was really good at it, to be fair. I used to think that would get me football fit, but the truth was, when you break it down on a basic kind of physiological level, I was training slower twitch muscle fibers, which happens when you're doing longer distance running, and in a way it was killing my speed. So when I needed to be faster and more explosive on the football pitch, and I needed those repeated sprints, I didn't have the qualities to do it because I never trained it. Instead, I was constantly doing long distance running. And now if we look at a marathon runner and how they're built and what they're built to do, they are incredible at running long distances. But if you put them on a football pitch, they are not going to be fast, they're not going to be explosive. You then look at the complete opposite end of the spectrum. You look at a sprinter, look at how they're built, look at what they're built to do. They're built to be quick over 100 meters, 10 seconds worth of sprinting at the most. Again, on a football pitch, they'd be very, very effective. However, they probably lack the aerobic capacity to last for a full 90 minutes. So you've got two complete kind of ends of the spectrum there. You've got your marathon runner, which is kind of like very, very slender, runs for long distances, but not very explosive. Then you've got the sprinter, who is very, very explosive, very, very powerful and fast, but probably doesn't have the aerobic capacity and potentially, depending how big that sprinter is, the agility to be able to get around on a football pitch. But I mean, most sprinters are quite agile and are quite explosive, so they would be okay on a football pitch, but they probably wouldn't be able to do it for 90 minutes. So why am I saying this? As a footballer, if I was speaking to my younger self, you would want to find the middle ground somewhere. You'd want and need to get that speed exposure, but also you need that high intensity, the ability to run at high intensity distances, longer distances over the course of 90 minutes. So it's a balance of the two. But the mistake I made when I was younger, I was just running laps for the sake of running laps. And I was literally like, there was a field behind my house where we used to live. I would literally go out there and I would set myself a timer. I'd say for the next hour, I'm just going to run laps. And I put my headphones in, just a nice steady pace. And I mean, from a fat loss standpoint, because I was using it to burn calories as well, like I got lean quick. Like I dropped a shitload of weight. I was 118 kilograms at one point, and that was at like 16, 17. So I was a pretty heavy lad. Well, that was an obese lad, to be honest with you. That weight came down very, very quickly because of the running that I did. So in a way, yes, that helped me to get leaner, but it didn't help me on a football pitch. And I thought it would help me on a football pitch. So that was a big mistake I made. So that's number one. I would stop running laps to get football fit. The second mistake I made was going into the gym and looking at what my mates were doing and thinking, I'll just copy them. He's doing push-pull legs. He's doing chest and tries, back and bis, legs and shoulders. I'll just copy them. That'll help me on the football pitch. I used to smash chest days on a Monday. I used to love doing bicep curls. I used to love the leg extensions and all of the accessory work that comes from bodybuilding training, but none of it helped me on the pitch. Even the leg days, they were so quad dominant. There was so much like squatting movement in there that my posterior chain, my hamstrings, my glutes were so weak. They were terrible, and the knock-on effect of that, combined with the fact that I wasn't training speed, often meant I got a lot of injuries because my posterior chain was weak, and there was just no carryover between the gym and the pitch. My workouts didn't consist of any single leg work. They didn't consist of any power work, any agility work. And often that's where your performance training sits. It's with single leg exercises. It's with jumping. It's with change of direction work where you're actually going out onto the pitch. If you've got mates right now, and this could be you right now if you listen to this, like you might be doing a bodybuilding split right now. And I can guarantee if I say to you, when was the last time you went out to the pitch and did a speed and agility session, you probably won't be able to tell me because you're not training that quality. You're just going into the gym and doing your normal bodybuilding split, your bro split that everyone else is doing in the gym. But if I was, again, saying to my younger self, I would train like an athlete, not like a bodybuilder. It was a huge mistake I made for years, not even just a few weeks or a few months. I made this mistake for years. Yes, I looked great. I got to a point where I actually had a body like Bruce Lee at one point. Like I was so lean and I looked so ripped, but I was lethargic. My mood was terrible because of the low calorie, the calorie restriction, and I would lose headers, I would lose tackles, I couldn't get past an opponent. Like I was terrible, especially on a football pitch, and it affects me a lot off the pitch, to be honest with you, as well, just by being like that. So I knew something had to change. So the one thing I would really say to myself is train like an athlete, not like a bodybuilder. As I progressed my training, I realised that the importance of recovery is probably the most overlooked thing from a performance standpoint. And this is probably the third thing I would tell myself, is that recovery is training. Now, I used to think more training was better, and I genuinely used to believe that. From the bottom of my heart, I used to think that the more I train, the better I will be. I would get up at 4 a.m. in the morning. Some days I woke up at 3:30 from what I remember from being about 20, when I didn't have that many commitments outside of just like maybe just a kind of a part-time job. I'd wake up like 3:34 in the morning. I'd go for a run. I'd come back home, I'd eat, I'd go to the gym. I'd come back home, do what I needed to do, and then I might go to football in the evening. Like I would do 3-4 sessions in a day. And I used to think that was better. But then a knock-on effect of that, obviously heavy legs all the time. My recovery was terrible. It actually probably made me less fit because I couldn't recover and come back faster and fitter and stronger. I was definitely getting weaker because my numbers in the gym weren't improving. And it got to a point where I was like, something's got to change. And I started treating recovery, like my rest days now, I think of rest days as growth days. They're my favourite days of the week because I know that if I'm resting and recovering, that's when I'm getting stronger. That's when I'm getting faster, even at the ripe old age of 31. But when we look at sleep, when we look at the way we eat, how we warm up, how we cool down, all of that stuff is part of training. And yes, that falls under recovery, but recovery is training. That is the one thing I would definitely tell myself 10 years ago from now. I would say, Cayman, like recovery is training. Make the most of it. Utilize it, because that is what's going to set you apart from other players. And it's a window that I missed. I was constantly training hard. Yes, I got to a decent level of fitness, but then it hit a point where my progress just stalled. And I would stay the same. I stayed the same for about 2-3 years. And I didn't realise until I started learning more about strength and conditioning and started reflecting on things and started researching stuff. That's when I realised, actually, hold on, I'm not doing things quite right. So recovery is definitely training. Now, the fourth thing I would tell myself is that carbohydrates are not the devil. They are not the enemy. They are the most important thing. If you want to try and unlock your performance, carbohydrates are a must. I cut my carbs. I went low carb and zero carb for a very long time. Years we're talking. The lack of carbs made me slow. It made me flat. It made me feel lethargic. My sleep was being impacted. My mood was terrible. It was one of the worst things I did that I should never have done, but I didn't know at the time. Your performance depends on how you fuel, and more so how you fuel with carbohydrates. Carbs are your primary energy source for high intensity exercise and training. Football falls under that category of high intensity. And the only way that you can then perform at your best in that sport is to have carbohydrates available. And this was such a silly mistake I made. I used to go it'd be like chicken and salad all the time, chicken veg in the evenings. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, providing that you're getting carbohydrates throughout the day and around training. For example, if you're training in the morning, you would have a lot of your carbohydrates either side of that session in the morning, which makes sense. You're fueling and then you're recovering from that using carbohydrates. However, if breakfast, lunch, dinner and all your snacks are just purely protein, and you're getting very little to no carbohydrates, a point will come where you're going to start feeling flat and your performance is going to suffer. And if your performance starts to suffer, that's where you're going to be in a bit of a pickle. So if I was to say to myself 10 years ago, like Cayman, don't cut your carbohydrates. They are so important for you to unlock your fitness, your speed, to improve your recovery, to improve your sleep. If you're struggling with sleep at the moment, I can guarantee you probably, especially if you've been like on a low carb or lower carb diet, start having some carbohydrates before bed. And I can guarantee after a week or two, your sleep will start to improve. A bowl of porridge, maybe some fruit, just start having some before bed. And that's something I started doing to just kind of help the hormone levels within the body just to kind of balance out a little bit, because they were in complete havoc because of the low carb diet that I was in and the deficit that I was in. And that's a natural effect of being in a deficit, is that your hormones tend to suffer a little bit, which is often why after a deficit you go into a maintenance phase with your calories, just trying to kind of let everything settle and get back to kind of a nice little baseline in the body. And the problem with this is because you can't see it on the outside, people forget it, but it's so important. The way you're feeling and the way you show up every single day is ultimately on a kind of a chemical level is controlled by your hormones, and that's also going to be controlled by a lot of the stuff that you eat. So carbohydrates are really important for that. The fifth thing I will tell myself is to invest in speed early doors. Like, I waited way too long to train for speed. I thought football was enough. I used to play goals. We used to play on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday was team training, Thursday we used to play, Friday, even some days on a Friday. This is when I had zero commitment, you could probably tell, because I was playing football 5 days a week. A game on a Saturday, and then sometimes I'd rest on a Sunday or play a game on a Sunday. When I started playing a little bit higher, we were training Tuesday, Thursdays, and then I was still playing goals like on a Wednesday, Monday, and then a game Saturday, Sunday, but I'll take Friday to recover. But none of that was making me faster because I wasn't training speed. Speed is a quality that needs to be trained every single week. It's just like going into the gym and training your legs, or it's just like prepping your meals for the week if you want to improve your nutrition. Like, all these things are inputs, and they're inputs, and from that you get outputs. So if I prep my meals for the week, that's an input. The output is that I'm probably going to stick to a calorie target for the week because I've got my meals prepped. If I want to get stronger in the gym, the input is that I need to show up to the gym and actually do the work, start lifting heavier in compound lifts. If I want to get stronger legs, for example, start doing front squats, deadlifts, lunges, step ups, exercises like that, right? If I want to get faster, the input is I have to go out and I have to sprint. And I have to get decent amount of exposure to sprinting to ensure that my body adapts from that training stimulus. And that will be the output of doing that work. But it's a puzzle, a piece of the performance puzzle that a lot of players miss. And I think it's probably one of the most important. Most lads could just get quicker by sprinting 1 to 2 times per week. Start at 20 metres, build up to 30, 40 metres, and then play around with different start positions once you get accustomed to doing that. Once your hamstrings, your glutes, your nervous system can handle the demands of that. Because I can guarantee you go out and do a sprint session, you've never done it before, you're going to wake up the next day, your core's going to be hurting, your hammies are going to be sore, your calves might be feeling a little bit, because it is so effective to get players more robust and faster on the pitch. But it's an overlooked area. So if it was me saying to myself 10 years ago, I would definitely invest in my speed early. And when I did invest in my speed, I invested in coaches when I didn't know as much as I know now. It was the best thing I did because it just opened up a whole new world of performance training. And it's something that I swear by today. Like, I'm recording this day yesterday. I went out and did a speed session. I'm 31 years old and I'm still doing that. A speed and agility session I did yesterday. There's a way to train it. You need to make sure you know how to train it so it doesn't become like a fitness session, because speed and fitness are two very different things. But when you train it properly, you can definitely see the benefits of it. The sixth thing I would probably tell myself is things take time. I was quite impatient when I was younger. And the small wins compound. And this I learned more so when I read a book called Atomic Habits and The Compound Effect, which if you haven't read either of those books, highly, highly, highly recommend. Atomic Habits probably changed my life, quite honestly. When I started implementing things from that book, it really, really changed a lot of things for me. I thought I needed overnight results, but in fact, the things I was doing, these 1% were adding up, and they were adding up over time. And the time that it takes months, if not years sometimes. Now I've got the program, the Fit for 90 program, and we train players around the world. So my job now is to fast track players so it doesn't take them years, but it takes them more months to achieve a certain level of result. It took me years because I didn't really have a coach for a very, very long time. So I was trialing and erroring a lot of things. And as I acquired more knowledge and made more mistakes, I was able to navigate my way through. But the truth is that tiny improvements each week, each month, that's what builds unstoppable progress and momentum. But it does take time. There's no quick fixes, quite honestly. And if anyone's like promising like a real quick fix, I probably wouldn't fall for it. The seventh thing I would say to myself 10 years ago is strength work, lifting up to 5 reps, no more than 5 reps, is going to directly translate to injury prevention. I used to do a lot of high rep training, especially when I was training more like a bodybuilder, which you might be doing if you listen to this at the moment, like 8 to 10 rep range, 3 sets, 4 sets, this classic kind of 4x10, 3x8. There's a time and place for that from a performance standpoint, but if you're always training like that, you're not hitting the end of the spectrum where we actually train your strength. You actually train to get your tendons and your ligaments stronger, which has a knock-on effect on your injury prevention. And I made that mistake because I was always in the 8, 10, 12 rep range. I wasn't really lifting heavy, and I paid for it with injuries. I had a lot of rolled ankles, a lot of calf strains. My knees were an absolute shit show. I had terrible groins, my quads. It took me a long time to get over that, 2-3 years to really get to the other side of those injuries. But it only happened when I started doing more deadlifts with heavy weight. I started doing front squats. I started doing heavy single leg exercises like split squats. I started making sure every single workout had a hamstring focus in there or a glute focus in there, because it got my posterior chain really, really strong. And the result of that meant I had few injuries, and I was actually faster because I had the qualities and the capabilities in the specific muscles required to sprint faster. For example, the hamstrings, the Achilles tendon got stronger. I used to suffer with a lot of Achilles tendonitis. When I started doing more calf work and more isometrics, my tendons got more robust. They became a little bit more springy to be able to then absorb force and then produce force, which as a result helped me to run faster and jump higher. So talking back to myself 10 years ago, strength work, anywhere between 2 to 5 reps, heavy weight, that will directly translate to injury prevention, providing that you train with good form and you're consistent with your efforts. You can't just do like one heavy session and expect results. It takes time to build strength, but it's definitely worth it. The 8th thing I would say is that the mindset and the mental side of football matters more than, I don't want to say more than training, just as much as training. It matters more than I realised when I was younger, because confidence isn't something that's just in your head. It's something that you can build with training, because when you trust your body, you start to make better decisions on the pitch. There was a point, and the point has come now, where you can step onto a football pitch, where I step onto a football pitch, and it's like, I know I can last for 90 minutes. I know I can handle myself in 50-50s. I know I can win headers. I know I can run past a man. I know I can run box to box and make recovery runs and transition runs when I need to. It's a nice feeling. It is a nice feeling. But that takes time to build that deep level of confidence, knowing that no matter who you play against, because I've played against players that are much, much better than me from a football standpoint, and that's something that comes with technical ability and also tactical understanding. But from a complete kind of physical fitness standpoint, from an athletic standpoint, I know I can match a lot of lads. And that's a nice level of confidence to have, especially at 31 years old. I'm playing against some lads are like 7, 8 years younger when we come up on a match day. Some are same age, some are like 2, 3 years difference, but the years of training I've put in allows me to be able to match them physically. From a football standpoint, obviously that's a different conversation. There's going to be some lads that are much, much better. There's going to be some lads that aren't as good from a technical standpoint, and that's just the nature of the beast, depending on what level you play. But physically, you can definitely try it, and always, I think you can always be as, it's something you can always progress. Your physical fitness is never like an end point where you say, oh yes, I am fit enough. There is always something you can improve on. It's always something you should be trying to improve on from an athletic standpoint. But coming back to what I was saying about confidence, having that level of strength and that conditioning, it does give you that confidence. And it could be the difference between you right now playing a league or two higher. It could be the difference between being on the bench or starting. It could be down to the fitness, because that then builds a confidence, which then puts you in a position to go and perform at your best and not feel the pressure that you're getting from outside. It blocks out the outside noise, as I like to say. The ninth thing I would say is find the right coach sooner. If I was to talk to myself 10 years ago, I'd say, listen, find yourself a coach that's good, because I wasted years guessing, copying workouts online, copying YouTube workouts, trying to, when social media kind of became a big thing, I then using social media to try and create a program, and it just didn't work. I made a lot of mistakes, and I wish if I could go back, the little amount of money that I had then, I would invest it in myself, in my health, in my performance, in my fitness, because the right guidance would have saved me years of mistakes and frustration. So talking back to myself 10 years ago, find the right coach sooner. And the last one, the final one I would say to myself, is to enjoy it. Enjoy the process. I think I was very, very, I had a very militant mindset, very diligent mindset. I was extremely, extremely disciplined. And that discipline I built from training probably, in fact, without a doubt, helped me to grow the business, because the things I needed to do in my business required discipline. And I knew from the training I'd done for 5, 6, 7 years so diligently, the nutrition was so strict, that I built a level of discipline that would help me in any other area of life. And I've still got that today. It's held me in such good stead. And for that reason, I wouldn't change what I've gone through, because it's helped me so much now to get to the point I'm at now. But I would definitely say to myself to not stress over every mistake. Don't stress over every bad game, but try and enjoy the journey of training. Enjoy the journey of learning. If you lose, what did you learn from the loss? Enjoy the journey of competing, because the time will come when you're not going to be able to play football anymore. And I feel like the last 10 years have just flown by in a complete blink of an eye. Honestly, I've now got 3 kids. I'm married. It's crazy. So definitely enjoy the process more, and not stress as much as maybe I did when I was younger. That would definitely be the 10th thing that I would tell myself. That is my top 10, guys. Hopefully a few of those might have helped you. If you're a younger lad listening to this right now, if you're even if you're an older player, some of that might be hitting home. If it's resonating with you, if it's something that you feel like you might need to take away and implement, drop me a message on either whatever platform you listen to this on. You can do it on Instagram, coach_Cayman. I'm more than happy to have conversations with players who want to help and better themselves. It's a very, very difficult thing when it comes to football performance, especially nowadays where there's so much online. It's 2025 at the time of recording this. There's so much online, and it can be very difficult to navigate through the bullshit. But sometimes just having a conversation with a real person, not like an AI avatar or whatever. I don't know what they're creating nowadays, but just having an actual conversation with a coach and saying, I want I want to improve this. How do I do it? And I'll break it down for you and we can have that conversation. Make sure you like, share and subscribe to this podcast, whatever platform you're listening on. It just helps push the podcast and boost the algorithm so it gets it in front of more players, because ultimately I'm on a mission to help more players than ever all around the world to perform better, to get fitter, faster, stronger and injury free. Have a good one.